Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited today. We're going to be talking about how to build AI products competitors can't match. This is one of the most important questions for product leaders and product builders today. Before we get started, I'd love to see a show of hands. How many people are working on an AI product today? All right, great. So I think about a third or so of people. My guess is that a year from now, that's going to be everyone in the room. And so this is one of the most important things to think about. And I'm going to talk about some things that we talk about within our Reforged course. We go through what the climate is like today and how to think about how to use AI. So I'm excited to get started. About 120 years ago, French artist Jean-Marc Coté was commissioned to create images of what he thought the future would look like in 100 years, in the year 2000. And he imagined a variety of things. He imagined airmail. He imagined fast fashion. He imagined a much better way to get ready in the morning. But what's interesting is that his imagining of the future doesn't look like what our future looks like. Our future looks more like this. We're all staring at our phones because our future is defined not just by any technology, but by information technology. Information technology has evolved in three waves in our lifetimes: the PC revolution, the internet revolution, and the mobile revolution. And every time one of these waves happens, the entire tech industry gets really excited, as we are today, about AI. And the reason the tech industry gets so excited is because each of these waves has created fertile ground for pillar companies to emerge. The brands that we use today, the companies that we all know, the pillars of our industry, were created in these times, in these transitions between waves. So, for example, Microsoft and Excel, Microsoft and Intel and Oracle were all created as part of the PC revolution. Google and Facebook were all created as part of the internet revolution. And then Apple emerged as a much stronger player in the mobile revolution. Same with Uber and TikTok. The challenge, though, that we all face as product leaders is we are now in the middle of a tech shift, but past tech shifts have created vast blue oceans. In the book Blue Ocean Strategy, the authors talk about two different types of markets. A blue ocean market is a market that is relatively untapped. And so in the early days of the internet, new internet companies were able to compete within the internet without a lot of competition. And so they were able to fish for all of these rich opportunities. A red ocean, on the other hand, is a competitive market where all the competition is locked, trying to compete for market share. And often, these are not great markets for businesses because they require companies to lower prices, which reduces margins and reduces the benefits of getting market share. And so today, we are in the middle of the fourth wave of AI technology. It's an incredibly exciting time to be building, and I think you can feel that in the industry today. But the problem is that AI is not creating the wide blue oceans that we're accustomed to with technology shifts. Instead, what we're seeing is that we are living in an intensely competitive environment. Early AI darlings have gone from the hot company to having to lay off people in under 18 months. And anyone who is competing in this market, anyone who is creating an AI product, needs to face competition from OpenAI and Anthropic and a whole bunch of AI labs who are both creating the models that we depend on, but are also competing with us with increasingly powerful applications. The big companies like Microsoft and Google don't want to be disrupted this time. They've seen that play out in past tech waves. And so they are coming into the market really hot. They are saying, we need to make sure that we are on top of AI. They're investing heavily. They're releasing products at an unseen pace. And then VCs are really excited as well. These tech shifts have been a time of massive venture value creation. And so VCs are investing a significant amount of money. And so for all of us who are building AI-powered products, we find ourselves swimming in a red ocean of all of this competition. And as a result, we're seeing something that we've never seen in the history of technology. we're seeing a phenomenon known as product market fit collapse. So product market fit is incredibly important for all of us as product builders. But once you achieve it, that doesn't mean that it persists forever. In the past, it's gradually eroded over time, and it's been really important for us to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that we're not losing product market fit. Today, product market fit is sometimes eroding nearly instantaneously. This is a graph of Chegg's stock price. So Chegg is a marketplace where students can come to that market and get help with their homework. That's a use case that's done much better, faster, and cheaper today with ChatGPT than it was on Chegg. And so in the time that ChatGPT has launched up until now, Chegg as a stock has lost 97% of its value. And this is not the only example of this that we've seen. We've also seen this, for example, with Stack Overflow, and other companies as well aren't seeing as dramatic a shift, but they are seeing changes. Meanwhile, there's other companies like ChatGPT, for example, that are growing faster than ever before. ChatGPT grew from 0 to 1 million users in just 5 days. That sort of velocity is unprecedented. Midjourney went from first launch to $500 million in ARR in just 3 years. And so the really paramount question that we all have to ask ourselves as product leaders and product builders is, how do we win in the most strategically intense time in the history of technology? And that's a question that I want to answer today. And so you may think that winning with AI means that you have to be the best at AI. But that's not true, nor is it necessarily possible. In order to be the best at building foundational models, you need to hire ML engineers. You need to spend tens of millions of dollars or more on training. And so for many of us, it's not possible to compete in that space. But fortunately, it's not just not possible, it's also not necessarily necessary. We don't need to create our own foundational models, because something remarkable has happened in the last 18 to 24 months. The most powerful AI models are available for all of us to use. They're just an API call away, or they're available via open source. And so we don't, as product builders, have to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to be the best at AI in order to create a winning AI product. And I'm going to show us a couple of examples of that. At the same time, we need to be wary. You can't just sprinkle a little AI on top of your product and expect it to work. If you do that, you're creating something that is not differentiated. It's really easy to clone. There's no clear competitive advantage. And so the right approach exists somewhere in between. The right approach is to think about AI as Lego blocks, to take a modular approach. We can take AI capabilities, we can assemble them together with our own product and create something that solves for the customer. And so what are the Lego blocks that we have to work with? Every single winning AI product is essentially composed of 3 different things. The first is the AI capabilities, and then the second is the data that you provide. The third is the functionality for your product. And so, of course, a winning AI product starts with AI. And I'm going to go into in a little bit more detail about the different models that are available and how you can choose AI capabilities that really stand out and help you solve your customers' problems. But the challenge that we have is every one of our competitors has access to the same models. And so how then do we create competitive advantage when everyone has access to the same models? And the answer is that we need to think about what is uniquely yours. What is the data that you have? What is the functionality that your product delivers? What is the understanding of unmet customer problems that are critical to your business and that give you the ability to use AI in a way that is unique to your product? And so it all starts with data. One of the things that is important to understand about generative AI is it is entirely based on context. Generative AI is really just taking the context that we have and using it to create an output. And so the first step in creating a unique AI product is to have unique AI data that we can share, that we can use to set the context for the things that we need done. And by doing that, we can turn something that is an off-the-shelf AI capability into something that is bespoke for our product. The next is our functionality, and this is one of the most exciting areas. Ultimately, your product can do things only your product can do. And AI is increasingly able to tap into that. And so your product can actually give AI superpowers. And so those are the three essential pieces that we have to be able to build a winning AI product. But what's even more important is the pieces, is how they connect together. And this is where the true differentiation comes into play. The first thing that we can do is we can take our data and we can pass it to the AI model to set context. As I mentioned, that is the way that you can turn an AI model into something general, into something specific for your product. AI is also generating output. And so, for example, if I go in and I say I have the medical records of a patient and I want to create a diagnosis for them, that diagnosis output is based on the input of their medical records. And so that output is not only valuable to the user, it actually adds to the proprietary data that we have. And so this context setting and output loop is actually a flywheel that we can create in our products so that as users use our products, we get more and more data, we can set better and better context and solve the customer's problem even better. The next piece is orchestration. And so the idea here is that your product's functionality actually sets what the AI can do. It determines when the AI is used and how the AI behaves. And I'll get into this in a little bit with an example. And lastly, the most exciting connection, I think, is how does your AI actually use your product? As we move to more agentic AI models are able to use your product like a tool. And so your product can give the AI superpowers. So your product can provide information to the AI as the AI needs it so that you can get to even better results. Ultimately, this is the winning formula to create products that you can't easily replicate because this is based on the data and the functionality that only your products don't have. And so the important thing to understand about AI is it's not just a great capability in and of itself, it actually accentuates, it amplifies the value that you already have with your data and your functionality. So let's take a look at an example. Over the last 12 to 18 months, Miro, the online collaboration tool, has evolved into an AI-powered workspace. They've added dozens of AI features. I think one of the most interesting and one of the most exciting is AI sidekicks. And so the AI sidekick is like a virtual team member that you can bring into the board. When you decide that you want to use the sidekick, Miro will go in, it'll look at the context of your board, and it will actually add comments to your board as if the AI was another user. And you can tap into a product leader sidekick or an agile coach sidekick. And so the way that it does this is Miro is using a model very similar to what I talked about. And so firstly is context. What is the context when Miro uses the AI capability? It is everything that is on your whiteboard. And so the whiteboard actually gives the AI situational awareness of what the team is talking about. And then what's the output that is generated? The output is based on a user persona, like an agile coach or a product leader, based on the context that's come in. It can create bespoke advice for your particular whiteboard, your particular collaboration. The orchestration, so it's used by the user when they need an extra pair of eyes. And so it's like having an extra team member that's available to you whenever you need it. And then finally, the most interesting thing here is that the AI actually uses Miro like a tool. And so it can use the same commenting and chat functionality to add content to the whiteboard as if it was any other user. And so how can you use this approach within your own products? It doesn't start with the AI. It actually starts with unmet customer needs. So with AI, we have more solutions than ever before. But the challenge is we don't want to have a solution that's in search of a problem. Just because AI can do something doesn't mean that it should. Ultimately, if you look at what are the pain points that your users have? What are repetitive tasks that they might want to do? Where in your product do they have cognitive burden? Where are there inefficient workarounds? Those can help you understand what are the unmet problems, and then you can look for what are the AI capabilities that could be a solution for those unmet problems. And the most valuable AI features are at the intersection of what's possible and what your users ultimately want. I think one of the best examples of this is Descript. Descript is an AI-powered video editing tool. For decades, actually, video editing looked the same. It was done on a timeline. If you look at a 20-year-old version of Adobe Premiere and you look at Adobe Premiere today, actually a lot of the user experience is the same. But what Descript recognized is that through new AI capabilities, you can create an entirely new model to edit video, and you can actually edit video as if it were just a script. And so instead of seeing a timeline, you see a script of all of the words in the video, and then you can move words around, you can cut words out, you can even add words through voice cloning. Descript has continued to add powerful AI capabilities to their product. But what's really important is they're not surfacing AI capabilities to their users. Instead, they're packaging them in a way that creators really need. They're essentially packaging them as tools that help creators look and sound their best. So one example is they have an eye contact feature. And if you use that eye contact feature, oftentimes creators will look down at their notes, like I'm doing now, and then they'll look back up at the camera, and as a result, they're not going to get the sort of fluid video that they want. The eye contact feature in Descript will actually move the creator's eyes so that the creator's always looking at the camera. Another feature that they have is studio sound. Many creators, especially ones that are not professional, are recording in all sorts of different environments that have different levels of sound quality. And ultimately, they can use this studio sound tool to make sure that all of their recordings, no matter where they record, sound professional. And so when we think about AI capabilities, it's important to think about it from the user's lens. Ultimately, the user doesn't care about AI. In fact, some users are reluctant to use AI. They're concerned about trust and safety implications, and they feel like it might be too complex. And so understanding how to package it in terms of their needs is incredibly important. And so once you have an understanding of what the user's needs are, there is a massively growing library of AI capabilities that are available for people to use today. This, for me, is the most exciting thing about being a product leader and a product builder today. And this list just gets bigger and bigger over time. We have the ability to edit, to translate, to manipulate, to understand, to generate text. We can do all of that with images and video and audio. We also have access to increasingly powerful reasoning models that can plan a task, that can use tools, that can coordinate with other agents. And so this is only going to get more and more impressive over time. And so the tools that we have available, the capabilities that we have available, will allow us to solve an increasingly large set of customer needs. So the first step for you to use AI capabilities is to determine which of the AI capabilities that you need. Secondly, you can think about what is the data that you have available that can add value to those AI capabilities. And there's different types of data that are really interesting and valuable for AI tools. The first one is real-time data. So AI models are trained at a certain point in time. They don't have access to the latest data. But if you have access to the latest data in terms of flight information or traffic information or anything else, you can feed that into the AI model and enable it to do something that it couldn't do before. The next is user data. Every one of your users is creating data that you can use to create personalized experiences for them. And so, for example, you can use a person's listening history, or you can use a person's things that they've saved in order to create an AI response that is better than what they could get out of ChatGPT because it's personalized to them. The next one is domain-specific data, and this applies to a lot of companies that are in a specific vertical. You may have access to medical cases or legal documentation or financial processes that other people don't have access to. You may have editorial content that you've created that is proprietary for you that can be used to power the AI. The third area, which is really interesting, is human judgment data. And so just because the AI is trained on a data set, that doesn't mean that it knows everything. If you have information from your users, it might be ratings and reviews, it might be a curated data set, that can help you do more with AI. A really great example of this is in the early days of image generation models, Midjourney was able to create a much more powerful image generation model, not by using all of the images in the world for training, but actually by curating down to only the ones that were the most aesthetic. And so here, curated information combined with training image data was able to yield a much stronger image generation model. And then lastly, we have reinforcement data. So as users use your product, they're creating data. You can ask them for their thumbs up or thumbs down on a response. You can give them a set of different variations and see which one they like the best. And that creates this wonderful flywheel where over time, as you get more information from your users, you can incorporate them into your AI capabilities, and your AI capabilities will get better over time. And then lastly, we have your product's functionality. Your product's functionality is what gives AI superpowers. And so, your product's functionality can include specialized workflows. These can be things like financial approval processes or contract review pipelines or medication prescription management. You may have unique algorithms. Things like the TikTok algorithm, recommendation algorithms are things that can power your AI. You may have business rules that encode complex processes. So that might include insurance underwriting rules, loan approval criteria, or any other complex business process within your organization. Adding AI to that is something only you can do because your product enables that process. And then lastly, you'll have integrations. And so as your product integrates with other things, whether it's payment systems or things like that, you can surface that to the AI. So you can automatically have an AI be able to issue a refund in certain cases because it can access your payment system. Again, something that an off-the-shelf product like ChatGPT or Claude can never do. And so ultimately, all of this connects together in a way that allows you to do something that your competitors can't and allows you to turn what are red ocean markets into a blue ocean opportunity for you. Let's look at another example. So one of my favorite AI tools is Granola. It's an AI note-taking tool. I use it every day. I wasn't using AI note-taking tools before. They've just raised $43 million on top of another round that they raised about 6 months ago. And so they've been able to create one of the fastest growing products in AI, but they did it in AI note-taking. AI note-taking is one of the oldest segments of artificial intelligence, and it's a red ocean. There's companies like Otter and Fireflies and others. There's also companies like Zoom that's adding transcription, and Microsoft Teams is adding transcription. So the question really is, in this red ocean market of AI note-taking, how did Granola create something that is growing so fast? How did Granola create something that is breaking through? And it starts with an unmet customer problem. Most of the AI note-taking apps take the approach that a person wants to delegate to them. They act as a secretary that people can delegate to. And so Granola identified an opportunity. I know many people in this room live and die by their notes. And so Granola identified the fact that for many of us, note-taking is an incredibly important process of how we work. It's how we do our jobs better. We don't want to delegate note-taking to somebody else. We want to amplify our own note-taking abilities. And so Granola created a platform for those users who didn't have their needs met by existing note-taking tools. They created a product for someone that wanted to amplify their skills rather than delegate to someone else. But they didn't do this by creating their own AI. In terms of AI capabilities, they use 2 off-the-shelf platforms. They use DeepGram for transcription, and then they use OpenAI and Anthropic for LLM features like note generation. But what they did was they assembled those pieces together in a really interesting and unique way. The first thing is the context. With traditional AI note-taking tools, the context is just the transcription for the meeting. From that transcription, the tool will create notes. For Granola, there's 2 elements of context. The first is it gives you a notepad, and you can take your notes. And at the end of the meeting, it will look at what notes you've taken on your notepad, plus the transcription and combine those together to create a better set of notes, because they'll be based on the things that you thought were the most important rather than the things that AI pulled out on its own. The output of that is a better set of notes, which is great for users, but it also leads to a growing repository of information that over time becomes a second brain for individuals and a second brain for the team. So that's that flywheel in action. The better context enables better output, and that compounds over time. In terms of orchestration, this is really interesting. Granola wanted to be something that is really easy to use, and so rather than building it as a web app, they built it as a Mac app. So it runs on your computer, and by running on your computer, it can do two things. One, it can detect whenever you start a meeting, wherever you start a meeting, whether it's in Zoom or Google or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. And as soon as it detects that you started a meeting, it will automatically start transcribing, and it will open a notepad so that you can start taking notes. It also, importantly, has access to the system-level sound so that it can start transcribing right away, rather than you having to have a bot that actually joins the meeting, which makes the whole process much simpler and much easier. And then from a tool use perspective, because it's not joining a meeting, it doesn't have access to the calendar, it can actually use the calendar as a tool to get information like who's attending a meeting, what the topic of the meeting is, and that metadata is something that enriches the note-taking process and helps them identify speakers. And so they used off-the-shelf AI capabilities assembled in a unique way to deliver something that is growing faster than many other AI products, and that was able to break through that red ocean and identify a blue ocean opportunity. And so, as you can tell from a lot of gray hair that I have, I've seen the history of tech, in many cases, firsthand. I've never seen it like this. I've never seen so much opportunity, but also so much competition. And so this is one of the most strategically intense times, if not the most strategically intense time I've ever seen in the history of tech. And in order to create winning AI products, it's important to ask yourself 4 questions. The first one is, what unmet customer needs need to be solved? Those things that haven't been solved before, you might be able to solve them now because of AI capabilities. The second is, what AI capabilities can solve those things in novel ways? The third is, what proprietary data can you use to power those solutions better than any other product because you have that data available? And the lastly is, what superpowers can our product give AI? As AI gets more and more powerful, it's going to be our product's most important user. And so thinking about our product not just as a product itself, but really as superpowers for AI is an important way to identify areas where your product can create value that other companies can't. And so over 100 years ago, when Jean-Marc Coté imagined the future, he couldn't get it all right. He definitely got some things wrong. I showed that earlier. But he also got a few things right. He knew that we would all be trapped on Zoom meetings and working remotely. You also can't predict the future, but you can be part of building it. And the really important thing with AI is that winning with AI is not about the technology, it's about building for people, and it's about building for the jobs they need done. So my question to everyone today is, what will you build in the AI era? Thank you so much.